Welcome to Angel's Table. Joining me today, as usual, Parker, Denise, Graham, and Rachel Pleasant. Today I brought up the topic of jail sentencing, or you said the judicial system. And this topic came about, again, everything comes about because of Facebook, and some of the disproportionate jail sentences, and I guess it was really the Brock Turner case that brought it to light, and then people started bringing up the jail sentences of people who were incarcerated for marijuana, and they're in jail for a year longer, and then this young man got a 6-month sentence for raping a woman. So
with two witnesses.
Yeah. With two witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a barbaric rape. I mean, it was pretty awful. So
they're always.
Well, they are. It's always awful.
But it's so hard to believe that this had so much evidence towards this guy, and things keep coming out. The way he would text his friends, or just his behavior before that night. And then 15-year-olds get 5 years in juvie because they had their brother's weed on them, and that ruins their life, or at least it starts off, at a very rough point for the rest of it. So how do we go from, 6 months to doing something that people are just now starting to talk about to something that people have that is legal in some states?
And the fact that this judge totally ignored the recommendations of the prosecutor. Which he ignored everyone's recommendations and just did what he wanted to do based on the economic status of this kid.
Well, I think one of the things that stood out for me, and that was, they said this kid has a future because he was a swimmer who was, training for the Olympics. And I just thought, wow, so because he's an athlete who has succeeded in his sport, that...
It's just ridiculous because people wouldn't let him be in the Olympics after this anyways.
They wouldn't, so...
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense as reasoning.
No, there was no logic behind it. I mean, it was he did something that was... I can't even think of the word.
Barbaric. Monstrous.
It was just unreal that he could get away with that.
I read something so interesting. It said that he wasn't a swimmer who did something bad. He was a criminal who swam. And that puts things into perspective, because a lot of these cases, whether it's rape or something, slightly different but just as major, that these people get a slight sentencing for something that was awful, but because they have a talent, or because they have a status or a reputation or a family name to uphold, that in itself can save you years in prison when you could do the exact same thing or something worse than someone else. And it's just so frustrating because anybody can be screwed in that way.
So I'm realizing from her talking that, are we talking about like NBA players who raping people, and football players that are beating their wives and getting away with that? Is that the kind of stuff we're talking about?
Well, kind of. Well, yeah. How they're
just entitlement.
So
they already have an economic entitlement, and then when the so-called system goes along with that, it just makes it worse. I mean, at least, even though it's not acceptable, at least you can understand their team or their coaches or something advocating for them, because they have a financial incentive for them to continue. Then you got a judge that supposedly shouldn't even be considering that as far as the sentencing,
right,
and just throwing it all out the window and saying, I'm going to do what I want to do. And so now, though, the repercussions with the jurors refusing to sit in his courtroom, and the prosecutor.
Wow.
They have jurors now
That's
that are
good.
refusing to be on any case that he's involved with.
Right.
And the prosecutor that had another case coming up before him asked for another judge. And you never, they said that never happens if the prosecutor asks for another judge instead of the defense attorney.
But, I mean, because I do think that judges can put themselves,
Do what they want.
yeah, they think they're, top of the heap or
Big dog.
They kind
Big
of are.
dogs,
They
yeah.
can put anybody
Well,
in their
they
courtroom.
are.
You just can be in there and you're
Yeah.
reading the newspaper or something and contempt.
But I do know, we have people that we know who they were incarcerated for a year for marijuana possession, and so you just think, and again, it's somebody who they thought maybe this person needs to learn their lesson. They're young and stupid, and we're going to put them in jail for a year.
Boot camp.
Well, it ended up they put him in boot camp. That they gave him a choice: you do this or you do that, and so they chose the lesser time. But
And the chance to get ripped.
That's one way to look at it.
we're going to make this seem like a really good thing. But I mean, even like I have acquaintances who they were pulled over for DUI, and in both cases these people had had one glass of wine and they were under the legal limit, and each of these people had a jail sentence of 5 to 6 months, and it seems, and again,
They were jailed?
they
I
were
thought you meant that they were on probation for 6 months.
Well,
Under the legal limit.
one of them might have had probation. The other one, she actually,
Was it a first?
it was the first offense.
I
The
just
one,
don't understand.
second, yeah.
well, to
And
be fair,
maybe I don't know all the details, but
There has to be.
there has to be more.
Yeah.
But sometimes you think that, and then you find out that there really wasn't. It was
to be
just-
fair though,
Yeah.
like that level of alcohol can affect different people differently. Like, there can be, high functioning alcoholics way over the limit that can drive better than, say, me that's under the limit.
But when they did the breath test and it was under the limit.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So unless she's a
So
high
unless
functioning
maybe she was
alcoholic.
driving recklessly.
No, I'm
I
saying
didn't ask that detail.
she could be more susceptible to being affected by alcohol. I'm not
Yeah.
saying so.
But that opens like a whole new different conversation because we already have perimeters. In this case, it's alcohol level. Then who is to say that this ticket shouldn't go to someone for this reason, but this ticket should go to this person because of another? So
Yeah.
it just becomes
Right, yeah.
another issue in itself, and it's so arguable in court because there's so many other cases that could have been worse.
Or like people that have
Yeah.
had in Louisiana, they had somebody that had 3 or 4 or 5 DUIs, and then the last time he had a DUI, he killed some people. And it's like, well, why is this his? Number one, why does he still have a driver's license?
Right.
And then the second thing is, why did he get so many chances? Why didn't he go to jail before? And it's
Right.
connections.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's just it. And actually, going back over in my mind with these two people in particular, and one of them, it was the first offense for this person, and she. Yeah.
Nothing.
Are you laughing?
No, I'm laughing at Tony. Calm down. I'm not always laughing at you. I'm usually laughing at you.
I know,
Fine.
She's like waiting for something after.
I know, it's like, really? Are you sure? I don't know. I don't know, but it just seems like there's been, just so many cases of misjustice or, and I'm sure that there, in every case, there's more to stories than what we really see. This is a fun.
I don't know. I like it like this. Well, yeah, I would I haven't read up on the Stanford case, but I think it's probably really shitty stuff. But I just remember other cases like the George Zimmerman case that
That's a tough one.
Yeah, everyone was really upset when he was found not
the
guilty
kid
or
that
innocent.
had a toy gun. Even the person that called in the report to the Cleveland Police Department said, "I think it's a toy."
Well,
And then the guy goes and he shoots him from the car. He doesn't even get
no, the guy was on top of him. Like,
Wait, no, that's
No, I'm talking about the 12-year-old that had a toy gun.
that was
in
a
Cleveland.
different one.
I'm just saying, it's just one thing after another.
Oh yeah.
Right. So yeah, that you're.
But I was getting at like a George Zimmerman case. Everybody was really. That's the one in Florida, right?
Yeah, I was.
Everybody was really upset with that, but then like he didn't do anything wrong within the law. Like he went out looking for trouble, but he was also
And he was chasing him. He was
Yeah.
chasing the kid, and then when the kid fights back, then supposedly because he's a stranger. He's not a
Yeah.
cop. He's following a teenager who's out at night. I don't even know how late it was, but I mean he was following him.
Yeah.
And supposedly he felt threatened when he approaches a kid,
Yeah.
that he doesn't know, and apparently the EMS or whoever that was, a 911 operator, kept telling him, "Don't follow him, stop following him," and he kills him, and then he gets off.
He still gets off. I think that was one that.
And the thing with
Actually-
Michael Brown, I mean, in Ferguson, don't get me started.
I'd rather talk about that than the jailing stuff.
Well, one thing I
We
wanted
can
to bring
talk
up
about
about
I don't
jails,
care.
though, is that a lot of these communities have a contract with the jail. And the contract says that they have to have so many people in jail. This was part of them building the jail in the community. So when they fall below certain numbers, then the community starts having to pay the jail. And so communities have a financial incentive to incarcerate people, which is ridiculous.
I know it's a business, but really, I mean, isn't that just
That's
all
how
they
tickets work too. They have a quota.
They do.
In some places.
In some places, yeah.
Yeah.
So right. So when you have these specific numbers you need to meet, but nobody's necessarily doing anything bad, then it becomes an issue. Goodbye.
So that is what we call working from home.
Yeah. So it's hard as a citizen who, personally I support our force. They keep us safe, and then there's of course bad seeds. But you look at the fire department and they're always praised, and then you look at the police department because they have to do the good and the bad of society. Then it's harder for the media, let's just say, to start with, to support them, and that's how things spiral. Everything that happened with terrorist attacks, why didn't they know sooner? They were following him, how was it stopped? Just things overflow and people get blamed, and then we all have an opinion on it. Is that for sentencing, let's say, was that a good sentence? Was that a bad sentence? Was this handled correctly? There's just so many things plaguing the justice system.
Oh, this was the other one that I had forgotten.
Segue.
The one, no, that's no segue. But I didn't want to forget to talk about this one. It was the one in Texas where the guy was acquitted of killing a prostitute because she stole $150. And
Okay, but the other part of it was that there were two things. She was an escort, not necessarily a prostitute. And so the fact that she was advertising as an escort, they're saying that automatically, they were saying that she was a prostitute. But if what she thought he was paying for was a date versus sex, you know, I don't know. But nobody should be able to get away with shooting and killing somebody, even if they, and apparently she was in a car.
yeah,
And he shot after her and shot her. I think she got shot in the neck or something.
right. And I don't know, maybe that's one of those instances where the judge decided that, okay, if you're prostituting yourself, you deserve to die. I don't know. I don't really know the case well enough to understand why he got acquitted. But maybe again, they felt bad for him that,
They said at any time if someone commits night theft, that was the term.
Night
theft. That was the Texas law.
And I'm gonna piss somebody off right now, but that's why when people say I have a right to protect myself, if someone's breaking into my house to steal something, I deserve to shoot them and kill them. And I think, oh my gosh, if somebody wants to steal my TV, steal my TV. I am not going to kill you over my TV because
it's stuff. The difference is if somebody comes into my house, I don't know what they're coming in there.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know what they're coming. But it's coming once someone crosses your threshold. That does not mean somebody's standing on your porch shooting through the door like the lady in Dearborn Heights.
No.
And she was walking away. She was shot in the back walking away from the house when the man didn't answer the door. So those kinds of things, it's like people just kind of go nuts. They're afraid, and so they just feel like they can shoot somebody.
There's a lot of fear, but when things like this happen with this guy in Texas getting off for shooting that woman, I just don't know how to process that really. I just, it's the same thing with the rape case in the 6 months. Somewhere there has to be the right balance in life. I mean, and maybe it's because we're so capitalistic that everything like the jails are a business that I don't know. I don't know what my thought is. I mean, I'm not saying what I need to say. I want to say because it's just overwhelming to me. It's overwhelming to me, so I can't.
The judicial system is made from evidence, and scientific facts, but that leaves out common sense. It really does. That's why there's supposed to be a jury to kind of weed through and put it together. But a lot of times what is obvious to us may not be what is actually happening in a jury room because, we're not there. Sometimes they're not allowed to report certain aspects. And
they know everything that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And so it goes back to the media. What can or will they report and in what way? But
and that's also why some people decide to have a trial with just the judge, because if everybody's looking at the presentation and the facts that they have, they're more likely to get off with the judge than with the jury.
That's interesting.
Especially if you're.
I know what I was going to bring up was with the Brock Turner case. Part of me after that the sentencing came down, then he was really being tried on the internet. So everywhere people were posting, "Don't forget this face. This is the face of a criminal," and so. And I quit engaging in that because part of me started to feel
You said you were engaging in that?
Well, not really. I mean, the first day, I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? But then after that, I stepped back from it because it's like, I don't know what happened. I'm only getting, part of the information.
I mean, he was found guilty.
He was, right, no. But then the way social media really just, threw him to the wolves, essentially. It's like, well, are we any better by,
Well, yes.
You are a lot nicer person, because if it was up to me, I would have literally thrown him to the wolves.
And a lot of people would have. They would have. And it's like, yes, I think he's a criminal. And yes, part of that, too, though, is I think because of his privilege, because he's been an athlete who did so well, that, like the coaches may have overlooked some behaviors that we may or may not know about, and they might have said, oh, well, he's our star athlete, so we'll not pay attention to that. I believe that there's a lot of stuff that because that happens, they start to, even like sports figures, they start to believe their hype, and so they think, okay, well, I got away with that behavior, now what can I get away with?
I think the NFL actually is really harsh on domestic abuse.
Yeah, I'm not saying, in particular, but
that's because of originally they weren't.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
They got so much backlash. They got so much backlash.
I know, but for a while now they have been.
Well, with Ray Rice, I mean, there was a video of him literally beating up his wife, and the NFL knew that and saw it way before it became public knowledge, and they didn't do anything. The only reason why they reacted is because they were getting backlash, and the NFL as an organization was just completely getting pulled apart in every single way. But do you really think they would have done something if no one ever found out? No, I don't believe so.
And then my example is Michael Vick. They threw him under the jail for dogfighting when he wasn't even at home, right? His entourage or whatever, and he got thrown under the jail. But yet other people that do things that are equally bad or worse, that just get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
So.
And there's so many, we touched on this, but there's so many factors how one person, gets thrown in jail or executed and others get slapped on the wrist. It has, also depending where you are, and who's in your jury, it has so much to do with, the money, your background, race can play a part, ethnicity can play a part, and
race does.
Gender can play a part.
Gender, yeah. So everything
Women
can
get
overlap.
You think?
Actually, there's
So much
actually
easier.
studies that there's serial killers who are women, but they don't know who they are because they don't expect women to be serial killers. There's this huge theory that Jack the Ripper is actually a woman. Things like that.
Right.
So it's
And
there's
I
so many
read that there was
factors.
it was a member of the royal family, and that's why that was a conspiracy.
But, so there's so many factors that some people who are very aware can take that into consideration, and then there's others who don't like to admit that those biases are there.
Yeah.
So it's
Those are the people that have blinders on.
Yeah, right. I wish that we could solve this issue, but obviously we
Can I
can't.
become a judge? That'd be fun.
No.
I would have like Game of Thrones style punishments.
Chop his dick off.
Oh, jeez.
Perry Ramsey of you.
Oh, right. Oh,
Is
my
he
gosh.
greedy? Okay. What is Bernie Madoff? Pour molten gold on him
Ooh.
like they did too.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can really reestablish this government.
Yeah, let's just take it back a few years. Start giving people the Red Eagle, I think.
Oh,
I don't need to explain it and gross you out.
but yeah, I see common sense. We got it.
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted this conversation.
I feel like we exhausted it early on.
I know. Obviously, we haven't resolved anything, and we probably won't. We never will.
Nothing's going to be resolved by
Nothing's
this
ever
show.
gonna be-
Or just happen to be alive.
Oh, come on. No, I know. Well, thank you, everybody, for this conversation. And thank you.